everybody to the meeting tonight, and I would like to ask Madam President Dorothy Green, CPA.
I'm like, wait, isn't that you?
To lead us in the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I would like the record to reflect that, okay, well, we have a quorum. Ms. McSheffrey is absent, Ms. Sexton Ruiz is here, but not here. And then, of course, members of cabinet, Dr. Lewis. To the welcome statement. We would like to welcome everyone to tonight's meeting and remind the audience of the request to address board cards that must be completed and submitted to the board secretary if they wish to speak to an agenda item. Board policy provides for 2 cards. White cards to be submitted in order to speak to an agenda item, and blue cards to be submitted in order to speak during public comments. Policy also states that there is a 5-minute maximum time limit per speaker. Due to the open meeting law, board members are not allowed to address items that are not on the agenda. If you do not want to address the board but wish to give your comments in writing, we can do so on a goldenrod sheet, and all members will receive a copy. All right, that brings us to approval of the agenda.
I move the governing board approve the agenda as presented.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor? Aye. Okay. And then that will bring us to public comments, of which I have 2 in front of me. And the first one is Madam President Dorothy Green.
Stop that.
Oh, no, if it bothers you, I'm going to do
No.
it more.
I need to go right ahead.
I do teach middle school.
Yeah.
Middle school.
Did you just call me a middle school student?
No, I'm saying I have the mentality of middle school.
I just wanted to talk to you tonight just really briefly about 3 things that I want to brag about, not as Madam President, but as a member of the Creighton community and as a member of the Creighton staff. First of all, I had the privilege of, back in, I think it was March or April, the gifted teacher at Papago sent one of those all Papago messages that said, hey, we're doing a physics gifted camp during the summer. Anybody feel like coming along and chaperoning? Okay, checked my calendar. I had those dates free. I was like, sure, I'll come. That sounds interesting. Didn't quite know what I was getting myself into, but it was just a blast. It was phenomenal. It was a great program. I loved the fact that, I don't know exactly how many slots that we were allowed to have, but we filled an entire school bus full of 5th graders going into 6th grade, all the way up to, and this was my favorite part, we had 8th graders who had actually already promoted from our school that were feeding into high school also. So we had 5th through, technically, I guess, incoming 9th graders for the beginning of this school year all together. And it was just an incredible experience. The physics camp was super well run, seeing the kids doing all these dynamic activities and just really thinking outside the box and doing a lot of makers kind of activities where it's like, here's some materials, see if you can create a roller coaster or see what you can do with this. And there were definitely instructional pieces about different laws of physics and things. Don't try to test me on any of them right now. I was paying attention, I promise, but then there were projects, and it was very project-based and hands-on. And then on the last day, they had a parent time for parents to come the last hour and showcase what their kids had, or see what their kids had learned. And I want to say 80% of our kids' parents drove all the way out to ASU, which is a parking nightmare, just to see their kids and the projects that they had done. And I mean, it was really, really incredible experience. So kudos to our gift, I know they're not here today, but kudos, pass it on when you see them, to our gifted department and our curriculum department, whoever's spearheaded that, because it was an amazing program. Then the second thing I want to brag about that our district did this year, and I'm not sure who should get the congratulations, but Camp Creighton took place last week, and it was an incredible experience. Just from just to kind of share from a CEA perspective, one of our employees who is our communication chair actually shared out on Facebook that we were running this cool Camp Creighton, and it got picked up at a state level, and an AEA photographer came down and took pictures and then blasted it all over AEA just because they'd never seen such an incredibly creative way of doing new teacher orientation. So it was super exciting. There was all this energy. There was camping and bunks and tents and all kinds of really cool stuff going on. Our bunk was the best. The special ed department's bunk was the best, just saying. But everybody agreed that saw it, just saying. But anyway, it was a phenomenal experience. And one of the best things about being in that room was the diversity in the staff that we hired. I mean, we hired an incredible, and I've been at new teacher orientations for years, and not saying that in any other years they weren't incredible, but the room was just palpably energetic and diverse. And there were just so many great faces out there, and as you attended sessions, it was just wonderful. It didn't all feel like, kudos Susan and your staff, it didn't feel like we were under a teacher shortage, or we had kind of like scraped the barrel, bottom of the barrel to get the last breathing with a pulse people into the classrooms. It didn't feel like that at all. They were wonderful candidates, and I think we're going to have a fantastic year of new teachers. So super excited about that, how that went. And then kind of a sub little area of that was our CEA luncheon. Thank you again to Jeannie and Donna, who graciously agreed to speak. Overall, it was a very positive thing, and I think our message of collaboration and that we are all in this together. We may not agree night by night on every single little thing that we're doing for kids, but we all agree that we're in this for the kids and in this for what public education should be for all children. So I think our district's off to a great start.
Thank you, Dorothy. Okay, I have one more public comment from Mr. Mark Landy.
Hi,
Hello.
Chairperson and members of the school board. I'm Mark Landy. I'm one of the 7 volunteer reading tutors at Mackin Elementary School's library. 2 of the other volunteer reading tutors are with me tonight, and they are Kathy Hughes and Jean Salmon. The other volunteers that weren't able to make it tonight are Curtis Beckman, Suzanne Starr, Monica Bowman, and I already said Curtis Beckman, and Robert Pompa. And you might be interested to know that Curtis Beckman is an alumni of Mackin. He actually started at Mackin in 1946. So he's excited too, and he's been volunteering at the school for the last 5 years. But I'm here tonight to give you a status on the fundraising. I think you've seen in the consent agenda that it shows that there's $89,000 that was raised for the benefit of the Mackin School and the kids that use the library. There's actually an additional approximately $7,500 that isn't reflected on that schedule. So altogether, we helped raise $97,000 approximately. $20,000 of that was raised by the volunteers' contributions and their friends and families, contributions from their friends and families. And the other $77,000 was a result of an article that was written by Lori Roberts in the Republic. And Lori Roberts expects to put another article in the Republic following up on after tonight's vote. We hope that you approve accepting the contributions as part of the consent agenda. And we wanted you to know that over 500 people contributed to the benefit of the Mackin Library and the students at Mackin. Those contributions came from all over the state of Arizona, and they came from all over the United States actually, including Massachusetts, Ohio, Virginia, New Mexico, and Texas. So you have a lot of supporters out there, a lot of generous people that really wanted to see that the library at Mackin was supported. The contributions range from as little as $4 from an individual a young man who sent 4 $1 bills and said they were his allowance, to a family foundation that contributed $10,000. So we had contributions all across the board. We would like, we all enjoy working with the kids at Mackin. They're great kids. They all want to learn. They're courteous. They're smart. And that doesn't just happen. We all know that just doesn't happen. So it's because of leadership of the school board, the superintendent, the principal, Julie Frost at Mackin, the library aide, and all the teachers, and of course the parents of the students. But they're all fantastic students. You have a great student body. And just in conclusion, we would like to see you accept the contributions in the consent agenda, when you vote on the consent agenda. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, all right. Well, Dr. Lewis, you're on.
It has been one of those wonderful favorite times of the year because this is when our teachers come back and they're rested and they're excited and they have that happy vision of what a learning environment is. And you heard a wonderful report from Dorothy Green on the new teacher orientation. We've never gotten such positive feedback as much as we did from this particular group, this particular approach, which was Camp Creighton. So we're really, really excited that our new teachers are here. And tomorrow is our rally where we will be at the Shriners. And we have another exciting focus on Be Kind. I'll tip the hand a little bit by letting you know that Mr. Fred Rogers, one of our friendliest leaders of all, will be there in the guise of Mr. Man. He even has a red sweater and red shoes for us. So we're looking forward to it's a beautiful day in the neighborhood from Mr. Man, and we will have some wonderful neighbors. Sadly, I did receive jury duty, and as much as I tried to formally get out of it, I called this evening, and I am indeed on the docket. So we are going to film my presentation after the meeting tonight and either quasi-Skype me in or just do a video. So I apologize in advance. I'm really, really bummed. We've put months of thought and planning into this, and my heart just aches, but I will vicariously enjoy it while serving my duty proudly. The grant that the the nutrition and wellness team went after to have 100% free lunch across all 9 of our schools was approved. All 9 of our schools will have 100% free lunch this year. This team is amazing. We will be recognizing them for another reason later in the next agenda item. We have struggled with our budget. We are really concerned about our sports programs. Our principals are looking in creative ways to ensure our kids can participate in sports, because for the most part we are the only avenue they have for sports. But I want to tell you a little fun story. Andy Gutierrez at LCK, out of his own pocket, put an ad on Facebook, and through the Facebook ad raised $30,000 above his normal tax credit donation, strictly to support the sports program. So kudos to LCK and their creative new approach. We have something to learn from each other every time, don't we? I want to thank our wonderful volunteers at Mackin, who have just done a yeoman's job of helping to make sure kids get access to the library there. And what an incredible show of community support they've garnered from the over 507 individuals who have donated, I think it was mentioned, ranging between $4,000 and $10,000. Each and every dollar is endearing. We want to also acknowledge, like Dorothy said earlier, we have 100% hired, and we are one of the few districts in the valley with 100% hired. There's an attraction and a magnet going on, and Dr. Lugo's team is just to be totally commended for that. I attended the Phoenix Union kickoff rally today. It was excellent. It was at the Celebrity Theater in the Round. And ironically, unplanned, they too have the Be Kind and work on the kind leaders in their theme this year. So we're directly paralleled accidentally. So the stars are aligned there. And finally, I would like to say I returned last week from China. I really want to thank the governing board. China. And the American Association of School Administrators and the Chinese Ministry for sponsoring the trip. It was a life changer. I was honored to serve as a delegate for the country as one of 9 superintendents that got to do this. They wanted to learn from us innovation and creativity, and I think we learned more from them. We are walking away from that experience with 2 sister school relationships that I think will parlay beautifully into our junior ambassador program. So we'll tell you more about really amazing philosophies that the Confucius schools are advocating and what the government is really seeking to do as it grows its student body of the next generation. So I look forward to sharing more with you later at that time. But I have a little token. Since we say it's okay to make mistakes and take risks, at the teacher store in China, I bought erasers that each of you, I would like you to have as a token of appreciation for letting me go. Thank you. That means that one. Okay, good. And that concludes my report. Yeah, right. Well, we were supposed to send gifts over there, and everywhere I shopped for something that was, USA or it said made in China. And so I thought, well, I'm bringing this back to you. But I thought, no, but I found something from the United States of America to bring as my gift. Isn't that funny?
And then Dr. Lewis, why don't you go ahead and take the next agenda item?
Yes, proudly.
Yes.
So separately listed and worthy of separate distinction, from a publication called District Administrator. If you look on page 43 or you go to their website, you will see from J.D. Solomon, congratulations to the Creighton Supper Nutrition Program. It's a national recognition for innovation and leading the way with new ideas that work. So can we ask Erin and her team to come up, and Emily, if you'll take some photos, we'd like to present this Districts of Distinction to the Creighton School District. But it's really There you go. I appreciate that.
We all get together.
Do I need our mic to be Thank you. Thank you. Great job. Really good work, and that's really great.
All right. That will bring us to our next agenda item, which is governing board reports. Ms. Young, do you have anything to report today?
Not at this time. Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Zaragoza, how about you, Iron Man?
I'll just share how enthusiastically proud I am for our community orientation. I think that the outpouring of support from our Mackin volunteers, the outpouring of support with Larry C. Kennedy and their outreach to bring in more resources is just a testament to the things we've been saying. We can't do this alone. People want to be a part of it, and it just makes me wonder, like, we're barely probably not even scratching the tip of the iceberg here. So I look forward to more community outreach. Super excited to kick off a new school year. My daughter's starting first. So it's going to be a great year. That's it. Thank you.
I can't believe your daughter's in first grade. That just hit me all of a sudden. Ms. Sexton-Reese, do you have anything to report?
I just want to congratulate the volunteers of Mackin School for their dedication to the library and to the school, and congratulate them in all the work they do. I think it's really commendable, and like Carl was saying, we've really want community involvement in our schools, in our district. And you're just showing just what incredible community involvement can look like. Thank you so much.
Okay, and Ms. McSheffrey texted to say that she's on her way. And as far as my governing board report goes, I'd just like to echo my fellow board members and say thank you so much for not only coming in to read for our kids, but you're, collecting all these donations. It's not easy work to do, and you guys made it look like it was easy, so thank you very much. I also was able to go to the new teacher luncheon, and it was great. I loved the camping thing. The camping thing was great, and the few teachers that I was able to talk to, they also agreed that they really enjoyed the theme of things, that they felt that the content was relevant, and that you all were really just helping them hit the ground running. So it overall seemed like a really successful endeavor. And again, congratulations to Food Services. Thank you for that, for both things, and that's all I have to say today. I have students tomorrow, so I'm thinking about lots of things. Okay, and that brings us to consent.
Move the governing board approve consent agenda items A through R in accordance with policy BED-D-4.
I second.
I'd actually like to talk about that first. I'm a little confused how we can approve and deny something at the same time. I'd like to remove
Carl, seconded.
oh. Well, I didn't get.
So, she didn't ask, hold on, I need guidance.
But we can.
We would have to have a second for that motion.
Oh, I see, for that. Okay, I'm sorry.
Because
Okay,
there's
okay,
two
I was confused. Okay.
There's two
So-
contradicting motions within the consent agenda. One is to approve and one is to decline, so,
Okay.
We have a second.
but, yeah, so.
We don't have a second. You have to vote on the first.
Okay. So as there is no second for your motion, then we'll go ahead and vote on the first motion. Okay, so the first motion to approve the consent agenda items A through R, it's been moved and seconded. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Nay.
Okay, so we move on. All right, and that will bring us to personnel. I'm sorry, the approval of Director of Facilities for the Creighton School District, my apologies.
So, good evening. Thank you, Governing Board. Just want to inform you that a comprehensive search was done for the Director of Facilities, and after rigorous process with an interview panel made up of administrators, communities, and staff, they unanimously recommended Mr. Derek Skutnik. And Mr. Skutnik is currently the custodial operations coordinator for the Gilberts. Did I mess up?
No,
Okay.
I'm making sure she knows who he is. He's spying.
Sorry. I'm thinking Sputnik, but Skutnik. Operations coordinator for the Gilberts Public Schools. And he comes with many years of experience both in the public and private sector, including facilities director at ASU Preparatory Academy. Mr. Skutnik holds several certificates related to facilities management and maintenance. So if he would like to come forward, Mr. Mann, if you have anything you'd like to add.
Yeah, I just like to share some of the things that stood out from the committee was his focus on systems and creating systems to ensure the quality of not only the cleanliness but also the maintenance of facilities was something that really struck a chord with the folks on the panel. So we're very excited to bring him forward as our recommendation for the position of Director of Facilities.
Do we have a motion?
I move the governing board approve Mr. Derek Skutnik as Director of Facilities for Creighton School District effective August 17th, 2017.
Second.
Been moved and seconded, all those in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Welcome.
Congratulations.
Absolutely. Madam President, members of the board, Dr. Lewis, staff and guests, thank you for having me. Thank you for having me here tonight. I'm extremely excited about this opportunity and look forward to joining the Creighton School District family, and very excited. Thank you.
Welcome. Welcome to the family.
All right, and we have another personnel approval pending.
Pending board approval. We are very excited to recommend Mr. Jim McVeigh. A comprehensive search was done for the Director of Bond Projects. You might have seen that it was posted for quite some time. And a very rigorous process was had with an interview panel also made up of administrators, community members, and staff. And at the first shot, the panel recommended that we continue a search for the best fit for the district. And after a subsequent interview panel, a recommendation was made that we had the talent right under our very own eyes, and we would like to recommend Mr. Jim McVeigh as the Director of Bonds Projects. He has been part of the Creighton School District since 2009, with his latest assignment being the interim of the Director of Facilities. And formerly, he had worked as a construction superintendent in the public sector for many years.
So I would just like to share one of the things that kind of came out in the process is prior to the process, we had no idea that we had someone who already had lots of construction background and experience already with us. And one of the ways in which that came out is in the time that Mr. McVeigh's been serving as the acting facilities director. One of the big things he's been working on is getting our capital projects rolling for the summer, so we have a lot of things ready for the start of school. And in that process, it very rapidly became evident the skill set that he brought to the table, his focus on the district's financial best interest, as well as providing the most beautiful and welcoming facilities as possible with our resources to our families. And that's definitely where his heart's at. So very, very pleased that we're recommending Mr. McVeigh for our Director of Bond Projects.
Motion.
Move the governing board approve Mr. James McVeigh as Director of Bond Projects, Creighton School District, effective August 2nd, 2017.
Second.
Been moved and seconded, all those in favor? Aye. Motion passes.
I'd like to thank you for the opportunity. I've been in the district since 2009, and I look forward to being here right that long. So, thank you.
Okay, that takes us to agenda item 8C, Dr. Lugano. The presentation on aggregate performance classification of principals and teachers.
So, thank you again for having me here this evening. I think I could do this without the glasses. Every year we come to the governing board and share with you the performance classifications of our teachers pursuant to Arizona Revised Statute, I want to say 15203. So let me just share a little bit about the history. We've always had a evaluation committee, and in 2010 we geared up for some changes in the law where the evaluation was required to have student academic data as well as the observational data. So you can see in 2013 the governing board adopted a model with a 55% for observation and 45% on student academic progress aggregate. In the spring of 2015, we went for a new observation tool with an up the rigor using the Charlotte Danielson framework for teaching and learning. Then that year when we talked about that, the school letter grades and AZ merit was suspended. Now in 2016, 17 in the spring, we've adopted for 17-18 a 67% for observation, 33% for student academic progress. What you're going to see here this evening will be the 45% split with the AZ merit included, which is different from the past. So, just as a quick reminder, there's 4 performance classifications that are defined by the Arizona Department of Education. And I can give you the fine print in larger print later if you'd like. But so here you can see our teacher ratings, and these are the aggregate of the ratings that's included the observation portion of the Danielson rubric in 2016-17 and including AZ merit. And then you can see also the comparison in 2015, which was the implementation of the Charlotte Danielson observation rubric, but not including the AZ merit. And then 2014 was the year where we had the old tool, but we were piloting the Danielson tool. So I'm going to pause here to see if there's any discussion or questions. Okay. And the aggregate of our principal ratings, we have 9 principals in the district ranging from 4 to 30 plus years. And all of them are considered highly effective or effective based on theirs.
Dr. Lu, can we go back a slide?
Sure.
And I think it's to the classifications, but on developing, I know there was some conversation at one point that developing, it would be natural to be a developing teacher if you're a new teacher. The question was, after 3 years, are you eligible to be a developing teacher? What does that mean if you switch a grade or switch a discipline? So I just was hoping you can give us a quick update on developing in
Yes,
particular.
and that's a great question. Developing as defined by the state, if you are in developing for 2 consecutive years, then your classification actually goes to ineffective unless you've switched grade levels or schools. So if you've switched positions or the administration asked you to switch positions from one year to the next year and then you continue to be developing, then you stay in the developing category. If you're in the same, let's just take 4th grade position for 2 years in a row and you hit the developing, even if you're a 2nd year teacher, then your classification actually gets bumped to ineffective at that point. Now, on the other definition of ineffective is if you receive 2 1s or in the lowest classification of the observation rubric on the Danielson observation portion, and that's defined by your policy or policy.
So I think the question I have just looking at this is, it naturally seems we should have developing teachers because we bring in a lot of new teachers. That's just the state of public education across the country. And I know we were trying to calibrate this, that highly effective is you're a rock star. And you can still be very good, but that's not a rock star. So that makes sense, but I see the trend upward for developing 2, 4, 8. So I guess I'm hoping to learn more about that.
Yeah, so
I'm wondering if that's something to be concerned about.
yeah, with the addition of the AZ merit, more of our teachers have fallen into the developing. I also would like to let you know that this was from the end of 2017. Anyone who ended the year in developing this year did not meet the qualifications to be bumped into ineffective for next year. They were either in their 1st year of developing or they have separated from the district. The other philosophical dissonance that we may be having is a 1st or 2nd year teacher, we want to help them learn and grow, and we don't want them to feel like developing is a punitive label.
Right.
So, and that's something that is set forth by the Arizona State Department of Education on the definition of developing, and the policy of if they're developing 2 years in a row, that is a part of the law. So unfortunately, it does take a little bit away from that. You're developing, you're growing, you're learning. I'd like to have another label in there saying grow.
My tangible one, these percentages are good, but what is the number of teachers total?
Okay, I don't have the exact off the top of my head. I want to say it's like 356 or 348. These are classroom teachers. These are also our teachers on assignment that fit into this category. And as well as your reading interventionists, your math interventionists, music, art, PE, special ed.
Thank you. So on that, with the 1%, that would be like 3.5, would be 3 teachers, 3.5 teachers that are ineffective in the district.
Correct.
Okay.
And
Number.
And those that were rated ineffective have separated from the district for next year. We have one that is starting the year on an improvement plan, but we're going to give that person all the help in the world.
Thank you.
All right, I'm sorry, I was just caught off guard. Okay, here we go. Back to my agenda real quickly. Where'd it go? There it is. All right. We have a first read for ASB policy advisories number 584 and 587.
Summarize.
Madam President, members of the board, Dr. Lewis, members of the executive team, bringing these items forward largely. If you look at the underlying portions, those are the differences from prior board policy. What you'll notice is they're mostly adjustments in language in relation to the transportation components to add governing board member. So in the past, the policy already existed for staff, but because we do have governing board members who utilize transportation vehicles, it's the Arizona School Boards Association recommendation to include them under the same guidance related to things like insurance and other components of our policies related to use of those vehicles. The collection of money food tickets, I'm actually really pleased that we held and are having this conversation tonight instead of in the past. These are requirements based on federal regulation under the programs that we receive the funding to provide free breakfast and lunch to our students. And these are changes to those policies to be in compliance with those federal regulations. Even though we need to have a policy in place, we actually have to have additional practices that are also documented in place, which our wonderful nutrition and wellness team is currently working on putting those components in place for this year. But the reality is the policy itself won't be used in any significant way since we are shifting to a program whereby all students will receive free lunch. There won't be outstanding balances that need to be collected from those families. And so it kind of, even though the policy needs to be in place to be compliant, the policies will be functionally moved for us as long as we're able to keep that program in place. And I'm happy to take any questions you might have beyond that.
Any questions from any governing board members? And real quickly, Hilda, I'd like to let the record reflect that Ms. McSheffrey is here. Okay, thank you. All right, so from this we can move on, correct? Okay, because it's first read, okay. So that will bring us to, wow, really? Future agenda items. I have so much to do, this is really exciting. Anybody have any future agenda items? All right.
Second?
Moved and seconded, all those in favor? Aye, meeting adjourned.